And welcome back to my channel, and today I just want to show you what I am hopefully planning to read for non-fiction November. Now, non-fiction November was started by a book olive, and it is not so much a readathon but a general initiative to encourage more people to read non-fiction. So if you normally read no non-fiction, maybe you should read 1 non-fiction. If you read 2 non-fiction, maybe read 3 non-fiction. It's just to increase the amount of people reading non-fiction, because non-fiction tends to have the stigma of being a little bit boring, a little bit dull, and in the booktube community fiction books are kind of really hyped. However, non-fiction, not so much. So this is just a November long initiative to encourage more people to read non-fiction. And the book olive, who I will leave linked down below, has done an announcement video, and she has provided us with some book prompts. These prompts don't have to be followed, they're just to kind of spark ideas, give you some rough idea, inspiration as to what you could read throughout this month and throughout this initiative. Now, I personally this year have chosen to use the prompts just to kind of push my reading a little bit further. So without further ado, here is what I plan to read, hopefully for non-fiction November. So Olive provided us with 4 book prompts, so I have just picked 4 books that match with these prompts. And the first prompt, post-it note, the first prompt is design. And these prompts are meant to be used loosely. You can use them as loosely or as widely as you want. And I have chosen for this one, Burton on Burton. It's got like a sticker because it's really old. And it is a biography of Tim Burton, just about his life, about his films. I really love Tim Burton. I love most of his films. I'm a huge fan of him and Helena Bonham Carter. I know they're not together anymore, but I decided, I've had this on my shelves for quite a few years. However, I've never wanted to unhaul it because I still want to read it. I've just not got around to it, so this is the perfect excuse. I picked this for the design element of the challenge because I was thinking about how Tim Burton's style and his design of his films is very distinctive. You tend to know if you're watching a Tim Burton film his sneaky, spooky, kind of sinister vibe. So I'm really excited to get to this. I don't really know much about Tim Burton himself. I know very little about his life. I'd love to know how he got into the film industry. So yeah, super excited to read this. So the next prompt is true, and I'd got a book out from the library which matches up with this. So it is When Dogs Don't Bark, a forensic scientist's search for the truth. And this is essentially a memoir, so hence a true story about a forensic scientist who has worked on the front line. It's by Angela Gallup, and she has been a forensic scientist for 40 years. So I'm hoping that this is kind of about what it's like on the front line. I am not a big true crime fan, but I do really like crime. As a kid, I was really into CSI, so yeah. So I'm hoping this will give me some sort of insight into the world of forensics, how it kind of works. I know on the television it's kind of not really the same, but anyway, this is for my true category. And the next category is kind of pushing it, because the next category is sport. Now, if anybody knows me well, you know that sport really isn't my thing. However, I have chosen Idiot Abroad, his kind of memoir by Carl Pilkington. I have watched the series Idiot Abroad quite a few times. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I find it really funny. This is just about Carl Pilkington's adventures when he was doing the Idiot Abroad series. So the premise of Idiot Abroad, if you don't know, Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant sent their friend Carl Pilkington on the adventure of a lifetime. They send him to dream holidays, they send him to dream backpacking places, and they make him do kind of really adventurous things. Carl Pilkington is not an adventurous person, and he finds this quite overwhelming. He's quite uncomfortable at some times, but some of the comments that he makes are absolutely hilarious, and you kind of feel for him, and he really does get to experience some things, and he does get quite a lot out of it, even though at the beginning of the series, especially the first series, he's really reluctant at the start. Kind of by the end of the second series, he's kind of more accepting. He feels like he's learned a lot, so I'm hoping to see this reflection kind of carried through the book. The reason I picked this for the sport category, maybe he does some extreme sports. I know he does a lot of jungle trekking. I know he did bungee jumping at some point. I'm not really a sports person. However, I thought this can kind of loosely fit in to the sport vibe. And I wanted to stick to the prompts to kind of push my reading. This was on my shelf, so I thought, why the heck not? The final category for non-fiction November is voice. And for this, I picked Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies, which is compiled by Scarlett Curtis. And this fits in with the voice category because it is voices from young women, or women in general, about what it's like to be women and misconceptions about feminism, female gender, kind of gender bias, things like that. This is about women's voices. I have heard amazing things about this book after it came out last year. However, I was yet to read it. It's been on my TBR for a while, so I'm kind of excited to get to this. This has got so many different voices. I'm just going down all of them at the back, and it's just basically a collection of short essays about women's voices. Women in this book are giving their own voice. It's all about women's opinions, feminism, all the things like that. I think it fits in perfectly. I love anything that's kind of feminist literature. I really am kind of quite keen to read and educate myself on the topic of gender, especially in contemporary society, more and more. So I am super excited to get to this. So those are all the books that I plan to read as part of the Fiction November initiative. Let me know in the comments down below if you are going to try and follow the Non-Fiction November initiative. Do you have any books on your TBR? Are there any books that you want to get to? Do you normally read non-fiction, or are you a fiction reader? Let me know in the comments down below and we can talk about it. And until next time, I will see you again soon. Goodbye.